Emily Carter had always believed that people should be treated with kindness, no matter who they were or where they came from. Living in Dallas, Texas, she enjoyed a simple life despite being married to one of the wealthiest businessmen in the state. Most people who met her would never guess that she lived in a mansion or had access to private jets and luxury vacations. Emily preferred uncomfortable clothes, drove an ordinary SUV, and spent much of her time volunteering at local charities. She valued humility and believed that character mattered far more than money or status. One Saturday afternoon, Emily decided to visit a luxury car dealership. She wanted to learn more about a vehicle she thought her husband might enjoy. Wearing blue jeans, sneakers, and a simple grey sweater, she walked into the showroom with a warm smile. Dealership was filled with sparkling luxury cars, polished floors, and elegant displays. Emily admired several vehicles and carefully read their information cards. She felt excited about finding something special. However, as she looked around, she noticed a few employees staring at her in a way that made her uncomfortable. A salesman eventually approached, but instead of greeting her politely, he looked her up and down with obvious judgment. His smile seemed forced, and his tone carried little respect. Emily asked a few questions about one of the newest models on display. Rather than answering professionally, the salesman responded with short, dismissive remarks. He assumed she couldn't afford any of the cars and seemed annoyed that she was taking up his time. Emily tried to remain polite, hoping his attitude would improve, but each response became colder than the last. Other customers nearby began noticing the awkward exchange. Determined not to let the situation bother her, Emily continued looking around the showroom. She stopped beside a luxury sedan and admired its craftsmanship. When she asked if she could sit inside to see the interior, the salesman laughed quietly and shook his head. He suggested that the vehicle was intended for serious buyers and implied that she should look elsewhere. Embarrassment washed over Emily's face. She had never been treated this way before. Even so, she remained calm and respectful. She simply wanted information, yet she was being judged entirely on her appearance rather than who she was. A few minutes later, the dealership manager approached after hearing the salesman's complaints. Without asking for Emily's side of the story, he assumed she was causing trouble. In a polite but firm voice, he suggested that she leave the showroom if she wasn't planning to make a purchase. Several employees watched from a distance while a few customers turned to see what was happening. Emily felt her heart sink. Fighting back tears, she quietly thanked them for their time and walked toward the exit. As the glass doors closed behind her, she felt deeply humiliated. What none of them realized was that the woman they had just dismissed was married to billionaire James Carter, a man whose influence could change their future with a single phone call. Emily arrived home later that evening with a heavy heart. She sat quietly in the living room for a long time, replaying the entire incident in her mind. It wasn't the first time she had experienced judgment based on appearance, but it still hurt every time. When her husband, James Carter, walked in and saw her expression, he immediately knew something was wrong. James was a powerful billionaire businessman in Texas, known for his sharp mind and calm personality. But with Emily, he was always gentle and attentive. He asked her softly what had happened, and Emily finally told him everything. The rude salesman, the mocking tone, and the manager asking her to leave without even listening. James listened without interrupting, his expression slowly changing from calm to serious. He didn't raise his voice or show anger in front of her, but there was a quiet intensity in his eyes. When Emily finished speaking, she tried to brush it off, saying maybe it didn't matter and she would forget it. But James shook his head. He told her that no one deserved to be treated that way, especially not her. He promised her that the situation would be handled properly, not out of revenge, but to teach respect and accountability. Early the next morning, something unusual happened outside the dealership. The staff noticed a sleek black Rolls-Royce Phantom slowly pulling into the parking lot. Its polished surface reflected the morning sun, and the engine purred smoothly as it came to a stop. Employees rushed outside, curious and slightly nervous, because cars like this did not visit their showroom every day. The chauffeur stepped out first, dressed in a professional uniform, and opened the rear door with precision and respect. As the door opened, Emily stepped out calmly, dressed elegantly this time, her presence immediately changing the atmosphere. Behind her followed James Carter, dressed in a tailored suit that made his status unmistakable. The same employees who had dismissed Emily the day before suddenly froze in place. The salesman who had mocked her felt his stomach drop, and the manager's face turned pale as recognition hit them all at once. The woman they had insulted was now standing there as the wife of one of the most influential businessmen in the state. James did not shout or create a scene. Instead, he walked into the dealership with quiet authority and requested to speak directly with the owner. Inside the office, he calmly explained what had happened the previous day, describing how his wife had been disrespected and humiliated simply because of her appearance. The owner was shocked and deeply embarrassed. After verifying the incident with staff members, he immediately apologized and took strict action against the employees involved. Within hours, consequences were decided, and the dealership faced serious internal changes. James made it clear that respect and professionalism were not optional in any business. Before leaving, he ensured Emily was treated with dignity and reminded everyone present that true character is never measured by clothing or first impressions. As the Rolls-Royce drove away, silence filled the showroom, leaving behind a powerful lesson that none of them would ever forget.